The streets were cold, covered with dust and broken wires. It was always dark in this part of the city. No stars, no moon. Just metal towers and thick smoke in the sky. The wind blew strong, making the broken signs swing and creak. People walked. Fast here, never looking back, never helping anyone. A small alien girl, with silver eyes and thin arms, walked slowly. Her feet were bare, and her skin was covered in scratches. She wore a dirty cloth around her, trying to stay warm but more than cold. She was afraid. In her arms, she held something close to her chest. It was her baby sister, wrapped in an old blue scarf. The baby was not crying, not moving, only breathing softly, too softly. The older girl stopped in front of a bakery. Warm bread smells came from inside. Her stomach growled. But she didn't ask for food. She looked through the glass and saw a man laughing. She waited a moment, then knocked softly on the door. The man opened it and looked down at her. "What do you want?" he said with a hard voice. The girl whispered, "Just milk for my sister, please." The man frowned, looked at her strange alien face, then slammed the door. She turned and walked away. She didn't cry. She had cried too much already. The next door was a metal shop. She knocked again, and a woman opened it. Before she could speak, the woman yelled, "Go away. Beggars aren't welcome here." She stepped back as the door slammed shut. Again and again, she knocked on doors. Some ignored her, some cursed her. Her arms grew tired, her legs weak, but she kept walking. Because her sister was still breathing. And she had to keep breathing. Finally, after many doors, she reached a small old building. It had broken lights. And the sign said, "Reed's Repairs." A warm light glowed inside. She looked through the glass and saw a human man working with tools. He had grease on his hands and a scar on his cheek. She waited, then knocked softly. The man turned slowly. He looked at her through the glass, then came and opened the door halfway. He said nothing at first, just looked at the girl. And at the baby in her arms, she looked up, eyes full of dust and pain, then whispered, her voice shaking, "Just milk. For my sister, please. I'll pay you back when I'm grown." The man blinked, confused. He looked around, making sure no one was watching, then opened the door fully. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside slowly. The warm air hit her skin, and her legs almost gave out. He caught her before she fell. He gently took the baby from her arms, placed her on a soft chair. He brought a cup of warm milk, placed it in front of the older girl. She didn't drink it. Instead, she took the cup and held it to her baby sister's lips. The baby drank a little, then coughed. The man, red, watched silently. He saw how the girl cared only for her sister, even when her own hands were shaking from hunger. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer, just looked at the baby. He asked again, softly this time, still no answer. He sighed, stood up, and walked to the back. He came back with a blanket and a piece of bread. "Eat," he said, placing it in front of her. She took a small bite, then stopped and looked at him. Her eyes asked a silent question. "Is it really okay?" He nodded. "Yes, it's for you." She ate slowly, carefully, watching her sister breathe. Finally, she whispered something, "Tali." "My name is Tali." Reed sat down on a chair across from her. He didn't ask more, he just watched. Something deep inside him stirred an old memory, maybe a daughter he had lost long ago. Maybe just pain. Outside, the wind howled louder, but inside the workshop, it was quiet, safe. Tali wrapped her baby sister in the blanket. She leaned her head on the chair, eyes heavy, body tired, but heart still alert. Reed stood and turned off the light. He looked back one last time before going to his room. She was already asleep, her hand holding the empty cup. Her sister sleeping beside her. And for the first time in many nights, they were not cold, not hungry, Not alone, morning. Light peeked through the dusty windows of Reed's repair shop. The smell of old metal, engine oil, and warm bread filled the air. The human mechanic stretched his arms and walked into the main room. He expected to find an empty space, maybe a note saying thank you. But the two girls were still there. Tali was awake, sitting beside her baby sister. Her silver eyes looked up at Reed quietly. She didn't speak, but nodded once. It was her way of saying thank you. The baby was wrapped in a blanket, still weak, but breathing better. Reed walked over and placed a warm bowl of soft cereal and milk in front of Tali. He handed her a small bottle of the same milk for the baby. She looked at it, then whispered, "Thank you," before feeding her sister carefully. Reed sat across from her and picked up a screwdriver from the table. He pretended to be busy fixing something, but he kept glancing at her. Her movements were slow, but careful. Like she had done this 1,000 times. "How long have you two been alone?" Asked. Tali didn't answer. Reed didn't push her. Instead, he pointed at himself. Reed then pointed at her, raising an eyebrow. "You told me. Tali, right?" Tali nodded. Then she gently patted the baby's chest. "Nia." Her voice cracked when she said it, like the name carried a heavy weight. Reed smiled a little. "Nice to meet you, Tali and Nia." The baby blinked her large eyes, let out a soft coo, and nuzzled into her sister's arms. Reed looked at the small family and sighed. He had seen a lot of broken machines in his life, but nothing looked as fragile as these two alien children. Later that day, Tali helped him in the shop. Without asking, she picked up a loose gear from the floor and placed it where it belonged. Then she cleaned up a workbench and sorted the wires by size and color. Reed was surprised. "Ever worked in a repair shop before?" He joked. Tali didn't laugh, but a small smile appeared on her lips. She enjoyed doing something useful, something normal. Reed began teaching her simple things. "Red wire goes with red," he said. Tali nodded, quickly picking up the task. Within an hour, she was soldering better than half the workers Reed had trained before. That evening, a young woman walked in. She wore a white coat with a medic symbol on the shoulder. "Reed, you called?" she asked. "Yeah?" Reed nodded. "Take a look at the little one." The medic walked over and kneeled near Nia. Tali quickly stood between them, her body blocking the baby. "Easy," the woman said gently. "I'm here to help." Tali looked at Reed, who gave her a calm nod. Tali stepped aside, still watching closely. The medic smiled. "I'm Mira," she said, checking Nia's pulse and breathing. "She's malnourished, dehydrated, and needs a warm place for the next few weeks. She has that now," Reed said. Myra looked at him carefully. "You're serious about this?" "Yeah," he said. "They stay here later that night." Mira returned with medicine, baby formula, and clean clothes. Tali took them one by one, whispering thanks each time. Mira stayed a while, showing Tali how to give the baby the medicine. She was surprised by how quickly the girl learned. "Smart kid," she told Reed, "but you might have a problem soon." "What kind?" Reed asked. "People don't like it when someone helps outsiders, especially alien girls with no ID." Reed frowned. "Let them talk." Myra shook her head. "Talking is just the beginning." As night fell, Tali sat beside her sleeping sister, watching the small light bulb swing above. Reed handed her an old book with pictures of earth animals. "Thought you might like this," he said. Tali opened it slowly and pointed at a small creature with big ears. "Rabbit," Reed said. Tali repeated softly. "Rabbit." He pointed at a lion. Tali said nothing, just looked at it, then turned the page to a bird flying. "Free," she whispered. Reed was quiet, surprised by the word. She didn't say bird. She said free. Maybe it was what she truly wanted that night. While Reed cleaned the tools and locked the doors, he looked at the two girls sleeping in the corner. Tali's arms wrapped tightly around her baby sister. They looked peaceful now, but danger wasn't far. Reed knew that in a place like this, kindness had a price, but something in his heart said was worth it. No one had ever asked him for money, help, or even love in that way before, but that little alien girl had asked only for milk. Not for herself, but for her sister, and he would never forget it. Next morning felt different. Reed woke up with a strange feeling in his chest, like something heavy was sitting there, waiting to fall. He walked into the workshop and saw Tali already awake. She was feeding Nia a soft mix of warm oats and milk. The little one was stronger today, her eyes brighter. Tali looked calmer too. But still quiet, still alert. Reed smiled at them, trying to ignore the strange feeling. He turned on the lights and opened the shop shutters. Outside, the sky was a dull gray. People walked by, humans, aliens, traders, workers. Most didn't look inside, but a few glanced in with cold eyes. Later that day, a tall man with a red vest walked in. He wasn't a customer, and he didn't look friendly. "Morning," Reed said, wiping grease from his hands. The man didn't answer, just looked around. Then his eyes landed on Tali and Nia, sitting quietly in the corner. "You hiding strays now?" the man asked with a smirk. Reed narrowed his eyes. "That's none of your business." The man chuckled. "They don't look local, especially that one," he said, pointing at Tali. Tali looked down quickly, hugging Nia tighter. The man leaned closer. "You know the rules, unauthorized aliens get picked up." Reed stepped between them, his voice steady. "You should leave." The man shrugged. "Just saying. People are watching." Then he walked out, slow and loud, like he wanted everyone to see him leave. Mira arrived later with new medicine and supplies. Reed told her about the man. "That's bad," she said. "Worried. He works for the patrol registry. They'll come soon, won't they?" Reed asked. Myra nodded slowly. "Yeah, they will." Reed looked over at Tali, who was now trying to fix a broken device. She sat on the floor beside the workbench, her small fingers moving like she'd done it all her life. "She doesn't deserve this," he said quietly. "No," Mira agreed. "But the law doesn't care." That night, Reed checked all the doors twice. He didn't sleep much. He sat in his chair, holding an old plasma cutter, just in case. Every time he heard a noise outside, he tensed. At dawn, the knock came. It wasn't soft or polite. It was hard. 3 fast bangs. Reed stood slowly and opened the door. 2 uniformed soldiers and a patrol officer stood outside. The officer held a scanner in one hand and a steel baton in the other. "We received reports of undocumented aliens," the officer said coldly. "May we come in?" Reed didn't answer, but he didn't move either. Behind him, Tali stood up, holding Nia. The soldiers noticed her, and the scanner beeped loudly. "Valiari," one soldier said, surprised. "Rare species." The officer smiled cruelly. "Very valuable too." He stepped forward. "Hand them over." Reed blocked his path. "They're just kids. They're undocumented assets." The officer said, "They belong in a holding facility." Tali stepped forward, standing beside Reed. She looked up at the officer, not speaking, not begging, just standing, her eyes filled with silent fire, but her body was shaking. "She asked for milk," Reed said, voice low. "Not a favor, not money, just milk." The officer didn't care. He reached out and grabbed Tali's arm. She winced, dropping to her knees to shield Nia. "Don't touch her," Reed growled. The soldier raised his baton, but before he could swing, Mira stepped in. "Stop," she yelled, waving a data pad. "I have temporary medical custody," she said, showing forged records. "She's under treatment. Touch her, and you'll violate medical protocol." The officer hesitated. Reading the file, it looked official, detailed, perfectly timed. He cursed under his breath and signaled the soldiers to back off. "This isn't over," he said, then walked away with his team. After they left, Reed locked the door and turned to Mira. "That was fast thinking," he said. She was still. Breathing hard, "I swapped her ID with a blank medical tag last night." "Just in case." Reed stared at her, then nodded. "Thank you." Tali sat in the corner again, holding Naya close. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were dry. She didn't cry anymore. She just held on. Later that night, Reed sat beside her. He handed her a cup of tea. "Warm and sweet. You're safe here," he said. Tali looked at him with tired, deep eyes, and then, for the first time, she whispered something back. "Papa?" Reed felt something inside him break, not in a bad way, but like an old, rusted door opening after years. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder, and they both sat in silence, outside. The city buzzed with noise and danger, but inside the old workshop, a family was beginning to form. The city didn't sleep. But Reed's shop became a quiet place. It's a small corner of peace in a world full of noise and fear. Tali was healing. Nia was growing stronger. Every morning, Reed made warm food. Tali cleaned the tools and sorted wires. Nia sat in her basket, wrapped in soft blankets, watching the world with wide, glowing eyes. Mira came often, checking Nia's health and bringing small books for Tali. They were building something, not just safety, but something that felt like a home. But trouble was never far. On the 6th morning, a strange sound came from the door. Not a knock, a click, like a lock being scanned. Reed rushed to the door before he reached it. It slid open with a sharp hiss. 3 men entered, tall, armored, and without smiles. Their suits carried the patrol mark, but in red, private enforcers. Behind them walked a man with pale skin, silver hair, and sharp eyes. He carried no gun, only a scanner the size of a hand. "Where are the Valerie girls?" the silver-haired man asked softly. Reed stepped forward, blocking their view. "There are no Valerie here," he said, voice flat. The man didn't argue. He just turned on his scanner and waved it through the air. It beeped once, then twice louder. Near the workbench, Tali stood behind it, holding Nia tight in her arms. "There," the man said calmly. "Scan them." One of the soldiers moved forward. Reed stepped in front of him again. "She's under medical treatment," he said. "You'll need a health order to touch her. We have higher clearance," the man replied. "The Valerie genome has military value?" He walked over slowly, reaching for Naya. Tali dropped to her knees, covering her sister with her arms. The scanner touched Tali's back. Beep, beep, beep. "Confirmed," the silver-haired man said, smiling slightly. "Rare blood marker. Omega-7, very special." Reed lost his calm. He pushed the scanner away. Grabbing a plasma torch from the table, "Get out," he growled, the torch sparking in his hand. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Don't be stupid," one of them warned. Mira stepped in, holding up a medical badge. "Back off," she shouted. "This child is under Federation medical protection. You touch her, you break 3 codes. The scanner man paused, frowning, then smiled again. "Very well," he looked at Tali. "But remember, little Valerie, your blood is your curse." He turned and left with his guards. The door hissed shut behind them. Silence filled the room. Tali was trembling, her small hands holding Naya close. Reed turned off the torch and crouched beside her. "You're safe now," he said softly. But his eyes said something else. He knew they'd come back. That night, Reed worked late in the back room. Myra helped him reinforce the walls and change the scanner locks. Tali sat beside Nia, brushing her tiny hair with an old toothbrush. Then she walked to the corner and pulled out something small from her ragged coat. It was a tiny silver cube. She placed it on the table in front of Reed and, "Mira, what's this?" Mira asked. Tali pressed the center of the cube. A soft light came out, and suddenly images floated in the air. It was a memory crystal. Valerie Tequiligol, but beautiful. It showed flashes of a homeworld lost to fire, her parents' faces. A small voice saying, "Run, Tali, protect your sister," Reed watched in silence. The images changed to star charts, genetic maps, symbols of old alliances, and then a crest. A human Valori treaty from over 300 years ago, forgotten by most. Buried in old history files, Reed looked at Mira. "This changes everything," he whispered. Myra nodded. "If anyone sees this, Tali becomes a target." Or a symbol. Tali didn't speak. She just looked at them with eyes too old for her small face. She understood what it meant. Her blood wasn't just rare. It was important, dangerous even. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat near the door with a tool in her hand, like Reed had taught her. She wasn't just a child anymore. She was watching, protecting. Reed placed a blanket over her. "You don't have to be strong all the time," he said. Tali didn't reply. But she leaned her head on his arm. Just for a moment, just long enough for him to know she trusted him now, completely. The days became slower after the patrol incident. Reed kept the shop closed for 2 days. Outside, patrol vehicles passed often. Watching, waiting, inside. It was quiet, but not silent. Tali fixed broken wires and organized tools she worked with. Calm hands and sharp eyes, Nia laughed for the first time. Her tiny voice filled the shop with a soft joy Reed had never heard before. Myra brought toys, warm food, and simple books every evening. Sometimes she stayed the night in a chair near the back door, just in case, but the danger still hung in the air. Every sound outside made Tali freeze. Every shadow made her hold Nia tighter. Reed noticed, but never asked. He just stayed close. One morning, Reed found Tali standing by his workbench. She was holding the silver memory crystal again, her fingers gently turning it. The light inside pulsed like a slow heartbeat. "I want to show you," she whispered. Reed nodded and sat down beside her. Mira joined him. Curious, Tali placed the cube on the bench and tapped it. A soft glow filled the air. Then the room changed. Floating lights and soft sounds surrounded them. A voice echoed gently. It was a woman's voice, soft and strong. "Tali, if you're seeing this, we are gone. You must protect Naya. Your blood remembers more than you know." Then an image appeared, a great hall with humans and Valori leaders standing side by side. Smiles, handshakes, and a bright blue flag shared between them. "The old pact," Mira whispered, amazed. The memory continued. Blueprints of ships, healing tech. Language data all shared between the two races. Then it turned dark. Explosions, screaming. Fire falling from the sky. Tali flinched. Nia stirred. In her sleep, sensing the fear, the final image showed a woman's heels, mother standing tall. She whispered, "The truth will be your light. Give it to someone who sees you, not as a weapon." But as a child, the cube faded and turned cold. Tali sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. Reed's face was still, his eyes far away. Mira blinked hard, trying not to cry. "That's not just a memory," Reed said softly. "It's history. It's proof and power," Myra added. "People will kill for this." Tali looked at Reed, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "I trust you," she said. "Then we'll protect it," he replied. "Together." Later that day, Reed gave Tali her own toolkit. It was small, but full of good tools, real ones, not toys. She opened it carefully, her hands shaking. Then she smiled. "It was small, but real. You're one of us now," Reed said. "You help fix machines, feed Nia, and even scold me when I leave things messy." Tali giggled softly. Myra raised an eyebrow. "She does have a sharp stare." Tali grinned wider and pointed at Mira's messy medical bag. They all laughed for the first time in weeks. The next morning, Reed woke up early. He found Tali already working. She had built something smaller, round metal ball with wires. And lights. What's that? He asked. Tali looked up, a proud smile on her face. Recorder. Hidden, she said. Reed picked it up and tested it. It worked. She had made a silent camera, one that could hide inside the wall. Why? He asked. She pointed to the shop entrance. Watch door. Keep safe. Reed nodded slowly. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was becoming a protector. That evening, Mira brought good news. There's a woman I know she works with. Legal ID prints. She can make papers for Tali and Naya, but it'll take a few days. Reed agreed. Tell her to do it. He didn't care what it cost. He would pay anything, trade anything, because the girls were no longer guests. They were his. Tali sat beside him that night with a small cloth bag. She opened it and took out a flat silver coin. Old and worn, she placed it in his hand. I found this when we escaped, she said. It's the only thing I saved from our home. Reed turned it over. It showed 2 stars crossing paths. It's beautiful, he said. Tali looked down, then said quietly, when I grow up, I'll pay you with more. Reed smiled. You already did. Kid, he said, you paid me with trust. Outside, the wind blew quietly through the alley. But inside Reed's repair shop, it was warm. A strange kind of family was growing. Not by blood, but by kindness, and by the choice to protect instead of turn away. Asterisk, it was supposed to be a quiet morning. Reed was repairing a hoverbike. Tali was adjusting a scanner lens under bright lamplight. Nia was giggling in her play basket, tapping a shiny wrench like a toy. Everything felt normal. Almost peaceful. Then the message came. A blue light blinked on Reed's COM board. A formal symbol spun in the air. Notice of summons. Human Alien District Council. Reed read it aloud. Then looked at Tali. Her hands stopped moving. She said nothing, but her face turned pale. Mira arrived within minutes. She read the message and looked at both of them. This isn't a good sign, she said. They're calling you in, not arresting, not sending patrols, but watching? Why now? Reed asked. Myra looked at Tali. Someone must have talked, she said. Or maybe one of the patrol scanners caught something when they came. They had 2 hours. Reed changed into a clean shirt. Tali dressed in simple clothes, her scarf covering her silver eyes. Myra would stay with Naya before leaving. Tali hugged her sister tight. Whispering something in her language, the council building was tall, cold, and covered in glowing panels. Inside, guards stood like statues. Reed and Tali were led into a round room with long seats and high windows. 5 members sat at the top, 3 humans, 2 aliens. Serious faces, sharp eyes, a woman with gray hair spoke first. Mr. Reed, we have reports that you're harboring undocumented aliens. Reed didn't flinch. I gave food and safety to a child, he said calmly. And her baby sister, another member, leaned forward. A young alien with dark blue skin. Do you know the girl is Vaylari? I do, Reed said. She told me her name is Tali. Her sister is Nia. They asked only for milk. There was a pause. Tali stood still, silent beside him. The youngest councilman turned his gaze to her. Do you understand what you are, child? He asked. Tali nodded. Then, to everyone's surprise, she stepped forward. My name is Tali, she said, voice quiet but clear. I'm not a weapon. I'm not a price. I'm a sister, and I'm a person. There was a long silence. Even the guards stopped breathing. She pulled something from her coat, a copy of the memory crystal's image. I bring this, she said, a record from my mother. It shows your history with my people. One of the human council members leaned in, curious. Another one looked nervous. They viewed the file in silence. Treaties, promises, shared missions, forgotten pages of a past alliance. After it ended, the oldest alien council member spoke. You come with memory and pain, young one, he said. But you also come with danger. There are people who will want you dead, or worse. Owned. I don't want to be owned, Tali said. I just want to be safe with my sister. And with Reed, she added, her voice softer now. He gave me milk, not fear. Reed's heart clenched in his chest. He wanted to reach for her hand, but he let her stand on her own because she wasn't just a child anymore. She was telling her truth. The council debated in low voices. Finally, the lead speaker stood. You may return with your guardian for now, she said. But no, the galaxy is watching, and some want to silence voices like yours. As they left the building, reporters and drones flew outside. Questions flew like arrows. Is it true the girl is Valerie? Is the mechanic her legal guardian? Okay. Will she testify before the Unity Tribunal? Reed covered Tali with his jacket and pushed through the crowd. He didn't answer anyone. He just kept her close, back at the shop. Myra rushed out and hugged Tali tight. Naya squealed in joy, reaching her arms up. Tali scooped her up, holding her close, safe, she whispered. Over and over. That night, Myra brought news again. You two are trending across the central colonies. They're calling her Whispering Hope, she said, smiling. She didn't scream. She didn't beg, she whispered. And people listened. Tali sat in Reed's lap, silent but glowing. He placed his arm around her. You were braver than most soldiers I've met, he said. Tali looked up at him and said softly, I had to be. For Nia, outside, the stars shone above the alley, far away. Other eyes were watching, some full of hate, some full of greed, but some full of hope. The whisper of a starving girl had reached across the galaxy, and it had just begun. Years passed like soft waves. The world changed around Reed's little shop. But inside, the heart of it stayed the same. Tali grew taller, stronger, sharper. Her silver eyes no longer hid under scarves. Nia learned to walk, then run. She laughed. More often than she cried now, her tiny voice filled the rooms like warm sunlight. People who once stared now smiled. They knew the story. The galaxy hadn't forgotten the girl who whispered. They called her Hope Forge, a name given by the public after a news wave went viral. It showed Tali in her early teens fixing a crashed drone while protecting children from a fire. She never asked for rewards. She always said, I owe the galaxy nothing. I owe my sister everything. Reed's shop became more than just a place to fix machines. It became a home for those without homes. Abandoned droids, injured alien pets, broken tech-tail helped fix them all. People came not just to repair, but to learn, to heal. Even some soldiers from the patrol came quietly to say, we were wrong. Mira stayed in their lives like family. She opened a small clinic across the street. She said, you build with tools, I build with medicine. Together, they built a new kind of neighborhood, strange, diverse, safe. Then, on Tali's 18th birthday, something happened. She woke early and walked to the old box under Reed's workbench. Inside was a small cloth bag, dusty and sealed tight. She held it in her hands, heart beating slow. Then walked to the main table where Reed was fixing a bent metal plate. He looked up and smiled. Happy birthday, Tali, he said. You finally caught up to your voice. Tali sat down across from him. Naya played nearby, building a tower. From spare gears, Tali opened the bag and took out a silver coin. The same one she had saved since childhood. She placed it gently in Reed's palm. His fingers closed around it, confused. I told you. When I'm grown, I'll pay you back, Tali whispered. Reed looked at her and shook his head slowly. You never owed me anything. Tali smiled. You gave me more than milk, she said. You gave me a second life. Then she stood up, walked to the large curtain in the back, and pulled it away. Behind it stood a small spaceship, sleek, silver blue, shaped like a teardrop. Its name was written along the side in both human and Valari script. Hopeforge Reed stood slowly, his breath caught in his chest. You built this. With Myra's help, Tali said, and parts we saved from every job, piece by piece. She handed him a small controller. It's yours, she said. You gave me a home. I'm giving you freedom. Reed walked around the ship. His eyes wide, it was fast, quiet, strong, built with love, not war. Mira stepped inside with Nia, who was now 9 years old. She ran into Reed's arms and said, "Are we flying today?" He laughed, a real full laugh, the kind he hadn't let out in years. Maybe, he said. But only if I get to be the pilot. Tali crossed her arms and smiled. We'll see, that evening. The shop closed early. Tali sat outside, watching. The stars appear one by one. She didn't whisper anymore. She spoke clearly, but always with care. A small alien girl passed by, dirty and alone. She stopped and stared at Tali. Unsure, Tali stood, walked to her, and knelt. You hungry? She asked. The girl nodded. Eyes wide, Tali held out her hand and said gently, Come inside. We have warm bread and milk. As the girl followed her in, Reed watched from the side. He felt something deep inside, something full and peaceful. She had become everything he hoped she'd be. Not just smart, not just brave, but kind. Later that night, Tali wrote her name in the shop log. Underneath it, she wrote 5 simple words. Kindness made me grow strong. Outside, the galaxy still spun with war and greed. But in one small corner of it, a whisper had turned into a voice. A broken girl had become a builder of futures, and a man who once fixed machines had helped fix the stars.